So that was the super sensual Water Me by FKA Twigs, the lead single from her incredible new EP, EP2, coming up on Young Turks. And I'm sat here with Twigs in a London studio, mysterious London studio. And we're going to have a chat and find out a bit more about her. She's brought some music into play, which I'm really excited about, stuff that got her excited about music as a kid.
I guess maybe let's start with Calypso Blues by Marvin Gaye. I picked that song because it's got quite a fond memory of when I was younger. I used to dance a lot. We used to do like choreography competitions. So basically like you do these competitions, everyone would like make up their own dance and like you'd have like a costume made for you, and all of the other children would do like a tap dance dressed as Charlie Chaplin, or like I don't know, song and dance of Princess Jasmine or something like that, something fairly like light-hearted. And I think I was maybe 11 or 12, and I decided that I was going to dance to Calypso Blues by Marvin Gaye and do an interpretive contemporary dance as a slave with like imaginary shackles around my hands and sort of roll around on the floor doing capoeira, which I guess like in larger cities maybe that's normal, maybe that's the sort of things that kids do, but obviously like where I was, that was quite unusual to do that sort of thing. So I made my mum make me a slave costume and put my hair up in sort of like a head wrap, and it was interesting. I enjoyed it.
That's incredible. How did it go down?
I don't know. I think that obviously I think because of my background and the things that I was into, even like the films and stuff that I liked when I was a kid were always maybe quite different to other things. So every dance that I did, or every sort of like creative outlet that I had as a child, maybe, people just knew what I was like, probably. At my dance school, people would maybe always just roll their eyes and just let me get on with it. The next song is called Is You Is and Is You Ain't My Baby. I picked this one because I just remember I really loved it as a child. I really loved the message behind it, and I thought it was sweet. And I remember as a child, this was my first sort of exploration of adult love, maybe in this song. It's very light-hearted and stuff, but I just remember thinking to myself, is that what it's like when you're an adult, when you fall in love, or when you have a date? And one of the lines is, I've got a girl who's always late anytime we have a date. And I always thought that was quite sort of a grown-up thought, to be a girl and to be taken out and to be doing your makeup for half an hour too long, or getting ready for half an hour too long, and the thought of having some beau waiting for you. So yeah, here it is.
So that was Louis Jordan's Is You Is or Is You Ain't My Baby. So was that the kind of thing that was playing in your home when you were growing up?
Yeah, very much so. It was, I don't know, I always, and even now, I really admire quite sort of simple sentiments in songs sometimes. I think it's something that's really beautiful. And I've started listening, before I start any writing session, I just listen to Walk On By Dionne Warwick, because I just think it's so beautiful. And even obviously, the style is very different to what I do. It just reminds me to something you can just say one line in a song, and that can be the kind of hook of it all. Just one line can just relate to everybody. And I think that's something that's really great about some old music that perhaps is lost in some areas of maybe pop culture. Is just that one line that you can just hold on to, and it's just so beautiful, and everyone has experienced it. My last song is I'm a Poser by X-Ray Specs. And this, for me, it sort of defines my late teenage years. And I don't know, it's a very interesting time, because I think it was when I really started to discover myself, just as a person and as a young woman, in terms of everything, in terms of how I wanted to dress, or the things that I'd want to put across to people in a social situation. It's just when I was really finding myself. And I used to be sort of obsessed with new romantic, Adam Man and Bow Wow and Susie and the Banshees and all that stuff, and I used to just consciously dress up like Annabella Lwin every single day. I just thought I was her, basically. And I remember going to quite a sort of cheesy West End club somehow, dressed as Annabella Lwin, and everyone else was sort of like in their designer clothes and stuff, and I just looked mental. And across the room was this boy, and he was dressed just like Adam Man. He had a ruffled shirt on, and in the middle of all this sort of like commercial like plasticness in this West End club where everyone, you know, when there's like the sparklers for every like bottle of champagne that is bought, there was just me and him. He sort of introduced me to X-ray specs, and it was just like a really exciting time for me. We just like run around with this group of like mad teenagers. I mean, we looked like a state, really, do you know what I mean? But like in our minds we were like this kind of cult of like these sort of like punks that just like didn't care, and it was just like a really interesting time. So I Am a Poser is what I took from that period of my life. And you know, it was a really special time for me as well, because I realized that like through trying to be something almost that I wasn't, and thinking that I was that thing, I found myself, if that makes sense, because like I was just so into that section of music and that section of culture that it just taught me that you can then be whatever you want to be. And during that period of time, like every bit of music that I made, it did sound like maybe like a pastiche of like Susie and the Banshees, or, you know, Adam and the Ants. It did sound like that, but through that I discovered like my true self, which I guess is like FKA Twigs. So yeah, this is I'm a Poser by X-Ray Specs, a song that's very dear to my heart.
I just loved what you were saying a minute ago about Dionne Warwick and Walk On By, and that sentence that becomes like kind of the hook and the tone of a song, and just also then thinking about I'm a poser and I don't care, and being that simple line, which is often a line that anyone can kind of relate to when they hear it, but it's not been in a song before.
No.
And then that leads me on to Water Me, which immediately feels relatable, and you can get the sense of this like need for like some like care and attention. But it's still got that kind of strangeness in the mouth, because it's like it's a kind of a new lyric. So it'd be great to like hear a bit about where that song came from and how you wrote it.
It was something that Alejandro Arca and I did at the very end of a session, and it wasn't up until that point a particularly successful session. We were kind of making these beats, and I think I was kind of whisper rapping over some stuff, and it felt a little bit empty, and we had half an hour left at the end, and we just literally started playing together, and I was on the Tempest doing some drums, and then Alejandro was like, oh, that's so beautiful, and he started like adding some synths. So I was playing on the Tempest, and it's kind of got this great function where you can record something straight into it and then manipulate it.
Oh, wow.
Like as it goes. So you just like have the beat playing. I mean, it's not very complicated, but you just have the beat playing, and then you can like change the frequencies. So I was sort of doing that, and then very quickly just the words came to me, I guess, out of nowhere. And I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that it was something that I laboured over for ages, because it wasn't. I think I probably wrote the whole thing in about 7 minutes. And by the time I'd written the words, Alejandro had added the little like zips in and stuff that he does, and I was like, shall I put it down? And he was like, yeah. And I recorded it once into the mic in one go, and basically that was Water Me. And I think even the only thing that changed from that version and the original version was it being mixed a little bit and mastered. So it came together within 20 minutes at the end of a session, and we were both listening to it, and we were both a little bit like, oh well, this is really it's really emotional. We were really emotional in the studio on that day. I remember it. We were just like two emo little souls like together.
Well, let's listen to another track from the EP2, Papy, Pacify, which is actually my favourite one on the EP. Should we play that? So damn good. It's really heavy, and it's kind of like, you know, like sink into the sound where you kind of like submerge a bit. I love that.
Thank you. I think it was really cool working with Alejandro because, like, I think it's weird. Like I think everyone's ears are different, as in how they hear sound. And I've had tinnitus for like 4 years, so I basically haven't heard any silence for 4 years. Like I have constant ringing all the time, and so I definitely think maybe that has something to do with some of the more weighted sounds in my music. When I first was working with Alejandro, like I said, like, you know, he has such beautiful sensibilities in terms of like sound and like melody and stuff, but I always used to say to him, like, you know, let's weight it, do you know what I mean? Like let's weight everything, because I know that my voice definitely sits in a kind of like mid to high range, and then naturally like Alejandro sits as well, I think, in a mid to high range, whereas sonically I like things to bed my music. So that was like, it's really fun. Like I always used to do these like sort of big arm movements, like we need to find like a weighted sound and sort of like curve my arms around and like pull them down and stuff, so that, you know, we could work on something that sounded more like me. I don't know, anything that's too like mid or high, it just, yeah, it's in the same range as my tinnitus, and then it all just sounds like a long beep.
Damn. What about the song itself, Papy, Pacify? How was the lyrical writing process for that?
Yeah, again, I mean, it came together fairly quickly. It's just basically like the need for somebody to like say the right thing at the right time when you want to hear it. And I think sometimes, like, maybe even that's a lesser of two evils. Like, you know, you just want somebody just to tell you something, just tell you what you want to hear, so that then everything is just like calm. Like for that moment you can have like calm. So that was, I guess, the main sentiment of the song. It was just basically the need for somebody just to pacify you, like in that moment. It's like a dummy, isn't it? Yeah. Just stick a dummy in your mouth at that moment. I mean, in the long run it's not going to be good for your teeth, but yeah, in the second it helps.
With EP2, how has your kind of approach changed? Did you set out with, okay, I've got a specific vision for this record?
I don't think so. I think it's just growth, isn't it? I've never really thought about anything that I've done in that sense. I think it's just growth, and I think maybe with like the second EP, like, I mean, the first EP, although it was like a white label, it was very small, but I never thought in a million years, like when I put Hide online, that it would like, I mean, I know on the whole scale of the world it's very small, but I never thought that it would have like the positive response that it did. Never in a million years. Like, I thought it would be like my friends watching it over and over again until they got bored, you know. So it's just like, I think having the response that those 4 songs did, it just gave me like a bit more confidence to think to myself, like, I can be more brave, I can like push the boundaries further. And yeah, I think maybe, well, hopefully that comes through in EP2, but I still very much feel like a novice, and I still very much feel like I'm growing every single day as an artist, like even to the point like the first EP is like EP1 and the second EP is like EP2, because I just don't, I feel like naming it, like maybe that is even like too established for me at this stage, do you know what I mean, to like call it something. Like imagine like EP2, like the second EP by Twigs is called Solarization or something. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, what does that even mean? Like, what are you on about? Like, I just want to keep it like simple and kind of keep it honest.
What do you think, I mean, we've mentioned growth quite a few times. Is that the thing that drives you as an artist and a person?
Definitely. Like, definitely. Like, I'm really into, it kind of sounds a bit like spiritual, getting spiritual up here in here, but like I don't know, I think like growing as a person is, and growing as an artist is definitely very important to me. And I think having people around you that are going to help you grow, and, you know, you can become a better artist and you can become a better person. And it's like, I think I read in a book once that the key to happiness and the key to growth is constantly changing your blueprint. So say if your blueprint is the same from when you're like 12 to, you know, or like when you're a young teenager, and it stays to when you're like 50, you know, times change and people change around you, and that's not going to help you like grow in any way. And I think that's the same, you can apply that to being an artist as well. Like if your blueprint constantly stays the same, like if I would have stayed, you know, like smearing lipstick down my face and thinking that I was like Susie from Susie and the Banshees, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, that I would be, I would be making 80s like new romantic music. But it's just that moment, isn't it, where you think you have to like evolve within yourself. And I think that's something that I find very exciting as an artist, to think that, you know, my first album could be this way and my second album could be that way. And maybe it's like a cliche to say that I'm conscious not to kind of back myself up against a wall, like as an artist. And it's interesting because completely like unintentionally, like people are always like, oh, you know, Twigs, like the artist that you can't find anything about on Google. Like that's not something I've done on purpose, do you know what I mean? But I'm very, I guess, sort of grateful in a way for that space and that silence, because it does mean that I'm like can create and just like move forward and like and spread out, which is, you know, that's something that I think every artist should aspire to be, really.
So I loved what you were saying about that, your voice being on a higher range, but the music wanting to be, you know, this heavier, lower thing, and that kind of like contrast. Because another thing I really have been enjoying about the EP is this contrast between this kind of the sensuality of the music and then this kind of lurking danger.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, was that something you were thinking about, or?
I think that probably from my teenage years, like I was really into sort of like really random in German industrial punk or like Kraftwerk, or, you know, even like Devo, that have these really kind of like harsh, piercing sounds. And that's something that, although like I know my voice is like super airy and like super light and ethereal, but I like to incorporate that in my music. And I like to always have an element in the sonics of the music which feels very uncomfortable. So it could be like a loud ticking noise, which sometimes you can't always appreciate it until you put on headphones or you listen to it on proper speakers. But I like to always have something that's quite sort of aggravating in the music, that maybe some people might think, oh, like I wish that bit is so good, but I wish that bit was quieter, like it's annoying. But that's something that I do on purpose, and maybe that adds to the sort of dangerous feeling and the sort of antagonizing element in some of the songs. I just think, you know, maybe that's something that is left from my sort of punk loving teenage years, because obviously that music's very sort of antagonizing and hard to listen to in parts. But that paired with like a really nice, I always see music as like you need like a bed, do you know what I mean? Like everything needs like a really big bed to lie on, and everything else is just like decoration like on top of it. So as long as you get like the bed right, then you can have whatever sound you want. And often I like taking samples which are perhaps actual real like industrial drills, or like a dog bark or something like that, and if you kind of reverse it and shorten it and put loads of compression on it, then all of a sudden you have like a snare or something. But you're when you listen to it, like, and if you don't know how it's made, it can kind of add to this sort of on edge feeling, which I think is quite fun to know that's in there, and maybe no one else knows that like the kick is actually this, or like the snare is actually that. But I still like I'd love to do a song with like my bones cracking, which is used as the percussion, because that's why I'm called Twigs, because my bones always crack. So I think that'll be fun. So maybe one day I'll get around to doing that, and that can be an interesting sound in the track.
RBMA Radio Berlin, Young Turks Special.